Hey, and welcome to the first episode of my new podcast here on the Illusive.media channel. Temporarily exclusive to YouTube, but it will be coming to the various podcasting apps across the internet very soon. If you are listening back to this in the near future via a podcasting app, you can head over to my YouTube channel for my other types of content and to see the video version of this podcast and more. That's I.E/media. Today I have a very special guest and friend, badass DJ and producer, top dad and all-around diamond geezer, Gaz West of DarkbyDesign. He's the 5 times Hard Dance Awards Best Remixer winner. He's played in almost every country around the planet and also pretty much at every major dance event in the UK. Thanks for being my first guest. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Thanks for having me.
Good.
Glad to be here. Nice one.
Wicked. So I'm sure your fans as well as my audience would really like to hear your journey and how it all started with the music. But I think before that, we should go back a little bit so we can get a deeper understanding of who Gaz is and what life was like for you growing up and, you know, what led you to this point today.
Okay. Well, my mum always says I needed a smack the second I was born. I was born blue. I weren't breathing. And the doctor picked me up by my leg and smacked my ass and I let out a big and then a cry and I was good to go. And it's just been a fucking roller coaster since then, to be honest, mate. We're allowed to swear on the podcast, yeah?
I don't know. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. That's all good.
Yeah, so I had a bit of a rough childhood. I was an unruly sort of kid. I just had a bit of a problem with authority in my eyes. If I wasn't hurting anyone, I didn't think anyone had the right to tell me what I could or couldn't do. Obviously, you know, you can't live like that, but it took me a lot of time to figure that out. So loads of energy, proper loving family who supported me and stuff, who tried to direct that energy into good places. Always had support. They put me through boxing and stuff like that. They decided that was a good way. Did that for 12 years, I think. Amateur boxer. Yeah, I loved it. I say I loved it. I didn't. I loved the fight afterwards. I loved winning. I hated everything before that. I hated training.
All the build-up.
I hated the day of the fight, the week of the fight. I was in bits. I felt like crying every single day.
Really?
Up until getting in the ring, the first bell, all the way I'd be sat in the change room thinking, why the fuck am I doing this again? Petrified. Like, I'm sure everyone I thought was sweet. They was just having a boxing match. I weren't. I was fighting for my life. I thought we were going to die. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it taught me a lot about discipline and stuff like that. And it taught me a lot about respect and I know having respect for my fellow man in competition and stuff like that. So you learn something about when you compete in a combat sport with someone, you kind of learn a lot about yourself and the person you're doing it with because there's no lying in there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I did that, and then in my teenage years, I started, finding women and alcohol and music.
Right. Okay.
And it's not much of a choice on a Friday night whether you want to go and get punched in the face or you want to go out and kiss girls and
enjoy
have a
yourself.
dance. Yeah, do you know what I mean? I obviously chose the latter.
Would you say that's what sort of drove you towards
music?
Yeah.
Well,
like the partying and stuff.
Yeah, to an extent. See, I've always been a super creative type. I'm very right-brained. I enjoy creating. I've always been good at drawing. I worked for a comic when I was a kid and stuff like that. I used to do commissions for people drawing their animals and stuff like that. It's just always something I've loved to do.
Very creative. Just
always been that way. My old man, he's very creative also. Now, he was in bands. He was lead singer and lead guitarist in bands all the way through growing up.
Okay.
He's always tried to get me into music and I just wasn't bothered. I love listening to music. So from an early age, from what my parents tell me, my first ever, favourite ever was fucking Boy George, Karma Chameleon. Apparently when I was a kid, 5 or whatever, used to run around the house singing Karma Chameleon. So that was my first love. I met him incidentally as I got older, but that's another, we'll talk about that another time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So would you say that your parents have always supported your music? And
they've supported me in everything.
Really, yeah.
And I've not made their life easy as I've soldier from the get-go. You know what I mean? I've aged those two people way more than they should have. But
I do see you post sometimes on social media, and I know your mum and dad are quite vocal in supporting you, which is awesome. But
I've always been super proud of that. I
wondered if it was always the case, because a lot of parents would be like, "Oh, you're wasting your life. You need to get a job."
Hell no.
You know what I mean, don't you?
No. Whether I wanted to be an artist, whether I wanted to be a boxer, an athlete, anything I've wanted to do, they have 100% supported me to everything. My dad's drove me to fights. He's drove me to. I danced at one point. I danced in a club in Sheffield at 5 o'clock in the morning. He drove me there to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They've just always been super. Even now, as a 40-year-old man, it's just always been that way. So I've been really lucky in that aspect. But
yeah, that is awesome. I think that's really that strong foundation is what's behind a lot of successful people. When you've got a family supporting them doing it, and rather than telling them they're making mistakes and wasting.
They just always made me believe that I could be anything that I wanted to be. So I always did. Yeah. If I saw another human had done something, in my mind, I believed wholeheartedly I can do it because they've done it. If they've done it, I can do it.
Yeah.
I never had any physical limitations, fortunately. So mental limitations didn't exist. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? That's just kind of how I was raised, and I've always kept that mantra. Even now at 40, I still feel that way. There's nothing I can't do if I put my mind to it. I can learn anything. I might not be able to do the best, but I'll learn good enough.
Yeah, I've heard you because people might not be aware. I'm a bit more into the drum and bass sort of stuff from your sort of music. But I remember we met up one time and you was like, I'm going to have a crack at making this. Give me them samples, give me them plugins. I was like, wow, about a week later, wrote about 4 drum and bass tracks, and I'm like, wow, you'd think you've been in the scene for years. So it just shows how versatile you are as an artist.
It's not just the fact that... It comes with physical gifts as well, or mental gifts in that aspect, I suppose. So I'm a mimic by nature. Yeah. I always have been. I can watch a movie twice and probably tell you 90% of the dialogue from it.
What's being said. And
I can just remember like songs. I listen to a song a couple of times. I'm almost certain I'll be able to tell you most of the words in it and stuff. I've just always been that way. So it's the same. Whether I'm doing impressions, taking the piss out of my friends or whatever, or what I mean? I'm very good at mimicking. Yeah. So that comes the same with music, and an innate desire to know what the fuck you did to do that. So if someone does something that I like, I want to break it down. I want to know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that coupled with, the gift of being able to mimic, recording things with your mind and playing it back.
I remember when we first met, you told me that you didn't even own a pair of decks. And I was like, what must it have been like turning up to gigs without any practicing? I'd be a nervous wreck, to be honest, if I couldn't practice.
Yeah. I think we need to backtrack a little bit. So basically, like I say, my dad always wanted to get me into music. I was never really that bothered and stuff like that. I wanted to be a boxer and I wanted to do whatever I wanted to do after that. But then when I got into my teens and the drinking and all that, we started going clubbing. We'd go into like Gatecrasher every weekend. Well, first of all, we was going to the places like Nemesis in Rochdale. So like what we called at the time beer boy clubs, because we took pills. So it weren't about drinking beer. It was about getting off your neck sort of thing. So, but then started to fall in love with like early 90s trance and stuff. I mean, like commercial trance, like, ATB and 9pm Till I Come and stuff like that. All the Solar Stone stuff, Rank 1 Airwave and all that. All those were starting to, like mid-90s sort of gear. So, towards the end of that decade of, just going out and getting pissed every weekend and stuff like that, when we started getting into taking pills and stuff, that's when we started hearing about the likes of Gatecrasher and the super clubs of then sort of thing. So
and that changed everything.
Oh mate, I couldn't fucking, because I'm an estate kid. Do you know what I mean? I'd never seen anything like that. We went to this club and no one's there in the Ben Sherman shirts and shoes and shit like that, mate. Fucking everyone was glowing up. Do you know what I mean? And like everyone was just like, it felt like our version of the fucking Summer of Love, the 60s, Woodstock and all that, because everyone was just fucking loved each other.
Like a revolution. Yeah.
Everyone was pilled up, being beautiful to each other. I watched people crying at breakdowns of like, they're holding hands with their hands in there, crying. Wow. Because they was just that emotional. I thought, oh man, I love this. This is wicked. Yeah. Not to mention the music was great and stuff. Do you know what I mean? So I just got addicted. So when all my friends started, getting decks and stuff like that, I've ever been the contrarian. If someone else likes someone, I'm probably going to go to the opposite.
A little rebel inside there.
Yeah. It's not a chosen thing. It's just what I'm drawn to. So, for example, the Spice Girls, everyone's favourite Spice Girls, whoever, I guarantee you mine's going to be Sporty Spice. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm just that sort of, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I decided I wasn't going to play music. I was going to make my own.
Wow, so you produced before DJing?
Oh yeah, way before. So I never had any interest in performing. I'm a nerd basically.
Yeah,
cool nerd. I'm a nerd. So yeah, I decided I was going to try my hand at producing it and stuff. So I remember I started on something called Dance EJ, and it was like it's like
on the PlayStation or something.
Sort of. Well, yeah, that was the first ever foray, if I'm honest, music on the PlayStation. But at that point, I had no interest in making it. I was too busy interested in going clubbing.
Yeah,
do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I'd had a go, and it was like, yeah, it's cool, but I never really gave it a second thought, sort of thing. I wasn't at that stage. I wasn't gaming as much as I think I was too busy.
Yeah,
chasing a luminous tail. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, I decided I was going to think it. So I use this program, this Dance EJ, and it's like a super, super, super basic program. Basically, it's a load of pre-made loops of synths, basses, everything's keyed, and you put it together like a little jigsaw, and voila, you've made a tune. But you haven't made a tune. You've you know what I mean? It's like
putting the loops together. And stuff.
But because I was doing it a lot, because I got addicted to it, I was enjoying it, and I was able to, as those programs got a little. Excuse me. A
bit more advanced.
Yeah, he was able to do things like arpeggiate and use notes and chop samples. And then I started to go,
make it a bit more your own.
Well, yeah, exactly. The first thing I learned with production was structure. That's not usually what you learn. Do you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
But the structure of what I was doing, again, hard dance, hard house and things like that back then, trance music and stuff, or just all that genre of the music I was going to club to in Sheffield every weekend. Excuse me. It was getting a lot. I was able to mimic what I was hearing there, store it, and then when I was doing, the production on this proper basic shit, I was sort of getting it close to what I was thinking. So by then, I still didn't have any idea. I thought I was just making my own music. So I started uploading it to a forum called Sample City. It was called. Just fucking long time ago. Long time ago. Yeah, this is like 2001 maybe, even less.
MySpace
2000
maybe, just MSN Messenger days.
Yeah, really back then. Yeah, I was using AOL chat back then. That's how old it was.
Wow.
Gorgeous Gaz West at AOL.com. Anyway, so I was uploading them to this thing, and everyone was saying, yeah, really good, but they're not your tunes. You're not making.
Yeah.
So I was like, what the fuck?
What do you mean?
Yeah, how dare you? That's rude. Yeah, I did this. He said no, and they explained about pre-made loops, and that wasn't a real sequencer and such like that. So I was introduced to Fruity Loops and VSTs.
Oh, wow.
And that changed the fucking game from then on. That was it. I was just addicted. And, that forum there was a lot of good producers on there. So I learned a lot on there as I was obsessed as well. So I think it was a healthy obsession. And when I mean obsession, I would fall asleep in a chair producing, wake up and carry on.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't get up and have a shower and brush my teeth. I carried on for a few hours first before I did all that. I was just obsessed. It's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Again, super supportive parents who knew what I was attempting to do, knew I would have success in it, because anything if I put my mind to, when I get obsessed with, I'm going to have success.
And it's funny you should say that as well, just to interject there, but I remember when I first started learning production and stuff, absolutely tortured my missus, because they're hearing the same thing for like 6 hours, the same bit that you're trying to make sound better. And so, that is a bonus if they were supportive, instead of turn that off.
This is how supportive one. My dad got me PA speakers to make it louder for me. That's how supportive. My dad featured in one of my early tracks as well. So the music, So I was into hard house majorly when I was first started producing, and one of the characteristics of that music is, early days music, hard house, was Hoovers. So what it is, it's like sort of a pitch bended saw wave with a filter. It's like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But because it was called a Hoover, I got my dad I recorded him saying to come in my room and say, look at the state of this room. You better get it tidied up.
Way.
Use the Hoover. And then he came in with some big Hoover riff sort of thing.
That's brilliant.
Well, but it's a little foray into how I was thinking. Do you know what I mean? I had like I say, the creative brain took over sort of thing, and just wanted to, as most early producers do, I just saturated the fucking track with Hoovers. It was just too much, rather than when you get better at it, you start using sound sparingly and, for impact.
Yeah.
Back then it was just like fucking flood it with
Throw
Hoovers.
it in.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Yeah. So what sort of started to happen for you with the tracks you were producing, and how did you get gigs and all that sort of stuff?
Well, like I say, I was on Sample City, and then as I got better at it, as I started using Fruity Loops to understand real sequencers, how to put music together, create loops, understanding pitches, and the way digital music is segmented and stuff. So like 16ths and stuff like that. I had no idea what they were until I started trying to do drum rolls. And then I realised...
having to count how many there was. And
yeah, well, so what I did, because I didn't understand that you could quarter notes back then, I would do 2 patterns of... So to make a snare roll that got faster, once it got after 16s, which is like... To make it go like that, I would duplicate it and then shift it a little bit to the right.
Oh, wow.
Because I didn't understand how to... Do you know what I mean? It's like...
Your brain's trying to work it out, isn't
I knew what I wanted, I just didn't know the correct way to get there. Same thing happened with sidechaining. When I first heard what sidechaining was, I didn't understand the process of it because I didn't understand compression, but I knew that I wanted that sound to make that sound dip.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I used... what was it called? It was a peak... maximum, peak level, fuck knows. Basically, some little thing on Fruity Loops that basically it was a MIDI control, so it told it using this signal, bring that signal down. So it did the same effect as a sidechain, albeit not the feel of a compressor, but it still made it dip when it. Do you get what I'm saying? So I've always looked at production as a puzzle. But anyway, yeah. So as I got better at producing and stuff, I was posting a lot of my music up for free on it was called SoundClick, I think.
All right.
Yeah, it's old. It was basically what SoundCloud is now, but back in the day, a long time ago. Yeah. So I posted everything I did on there for free. Just, posted it all up because I was learning. I just wanted feedback more than anything. And I started to get good. And a guy from, let me think, Finland, Club Zero, I believe his name was on the forums. I don't know what his real name was, but he started sending, he basically mastered the tracks and then sent them out to a few labels, and a label called Hot Wax from Lincoln, a label that I looked up to, a real good producer that I was really looked up to was it was his label. He didn't own the label. It was like a mainstay of that label. Do you know what I mean? He released a lot on there, and it was super. In fact, I ended up going down there to do a track with the head label owner, excuse me, John Whiteman, and the guy in question, Ingo, he was there. I was like, fucking, you know what I mean? It's like, wow. There's been quite a few of those sort of moments, do you know what I mean? Like, I've been like, oh my God, a bit like starstruck sort of thing, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I can imagine. Well, I've been to one of your gigs with you, I think drove you down a couple of years back, didn't I? And the reactions just from the crowd. And
I've got some really, really, really supportive
You're a performer, fans. I'll give you that.
I just get... I'm one of those, even though I'm not a humble guy in terms of like I'm pretty vocal and stuff like that, I am.
Yeah.
And I'm super appreciative. Do you know what I mean? So it's like... My fans to me are a big deal, do you know what I mean? They're not even fans, they're supporters, friends, you know what I mean? Because there's people I see now, I remember 20 years ago, my first ever gig, still see them out, still talk, it's like, so I've seen these motherfuckers.
So they'll follow you around to different gigs and stuff.
Absolutely. I've had friends come to fucking Holland to me to watch me and stuff when they're from the UK. There's no need for them to go, they see me every week, do you know what I'm saying? It's like, so I'm super, super supportive, super appreciative of my supportive fans, always have been, like, they're awesome. Yeah,
that's good. Can you give them a little sneak peek? Anything in the pipeline? Or
well, funnily enough, since COVID's fucking seems to be fucking off, thank fuck, the performances are starting to happen again, stuff like that. Before that shit happened, I had Australia, South Africa, and
you played all over the place, haven't you? America, Japan.
I've played almost everywhere. Yeah, every country I've ever wanted to go to.
Living the dream.
Couldn't believe it, mate, to be honest. You know what I mean? I'm from a council estate in Middleton. It's like...
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? All of a sudden, you're fucking flying around the world. I couldn't believe it, mate. I did a gig in Canada once. I got on my flight. I looked at the thing. It said executive class. I was like, what? Really?
Wow.
I couldn't fucking believe it. Wow. It's like, this is insane. What's happening?
In style, mate.
Just couldn't believe it. But I've never changed. I've always been that same guy from the hood.
Yeah, it's not gone to your head. No. You're not an arrogant person at all. Some people with the status of you and even way lower than you react very differently, don't they?
We all fucking...
I remember one guy, we were at a gig one night. Let's just say he's a dude from like the bouncy house, scouse sort of era, when I used to do DJing and parties afterwards and stuff. And this lad was a producer. He'd produced a good number of tracks in that scene. And my missus was sat on this sofa back at this house party, and she stood up to go to the toilet. So I'm watching a seat, and this lad comes and sits down. Then my missus comes back, and he's like, "Oh, you sat in my seat?" I'm like, "No, sorry, she was sat here before. We've been here for hours." Like, he's like, "Do you know who I am?" Do you know people would pay to sit next to me?
Oh, no.
Complete tosser. It's like, so... I know you'll never be that guy.
No. Thankfully, a lot of the people I've been around, I've never really experienced much of that. I've seen a little bit here and there, but for the most part, everyone's been...
And usually the ones that act like that, they're not as big as they'd like to.
I don't think they are. But I've heard a couple of stories off a couple of drivers here and there along my way about, people you wouldn't expect to as well, where I've been like, wow, no, that's kind of done me head in. I wish you wouldn't have told me that. Do you know what I mean? Like, being assholes or whatever.
Yeah.
Management sent an email through saying, Mr. X will not speak to you on the journey. You must not speak to Mr. X on the journey. It's just like, what the fuck? Get in the bin, guy. You know what I mean?
It's not what it's about, is it?
Yeah, you play music and you didn't fucking produce it. Do you know what I'm saying? Just sit down.
Probably paid you to.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, you never know, do you? But there's no need for that.
That's something we can get into as well. Like, I know is it co-produce, or what would you say? Engineer tracks for people. So there's a lot of tracks out there that you've actually produced, but maybe don't have your name on and stuff.
Loads, absolutely loads. And we've got a fair few pseudonyms as well. So I've always been, because I like to produce many different styles. Predominantly, I like aggressive music.
Yeah,
not aggressive in like a malicious, nasty sense, but more extreme music. So
very tight and hard.
I just like things that make me feel something. Do you know what I mean? So back to why the reason I chose. So I'm mainly a hard dance producer. That encompasses many different styles. But me personally, if you used to try and break down my music, it's like really heavy, but very melodic as well. I like hard trance, but I like slow, heavy sounds.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's more extreme things. It's not about being fast or nasty, aggressive. It's about an assault on your senses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I like dubstep as well, though. It's the same thing. It's slow, but fuck me, you feel it. Do you know what I mean? That's what I want from my music. So when I was going to Gatecrasher every weekend and there's this beautiful trance music being played all the time, I loved it. And it'd kind of build and build and build and then just flow into the energy. I need a little bit more than that. I want it to build and build and build and hit me like a fucking bat around the head. Do you know what I mean? I need impact. So that's why the music that I choose is very melodic, very thingy, but also... It's like running into a wall when it hits you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's what I like. You know,
that probably explains you winning the remixer competition. Was it 5 times? Can you explain? What that was?
5 times on the trot as well. Best remixer at the Hard Dance Awards.
5 is that years? 5 years
5 years running. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. But because that's, like I say, I'm a mimic. Yeah. So I listen to someone else's idea and get super inspired by it. And it's like, oh, wow, I love that they've done that. Wonder what I could do to, build on their castle sort of thing. I've always used an analogy of like making music is like building a Lego castle, okay?
Yeah.
So you have all these parts. You get all your parts together first, then you start building your castle. But the better parts that you've got, the better your castle can be afterwards. Yeah. I know that sounds stupid. It's just an analogy I've always used sort of thing. So I always wanted to improve the castle, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? So remixing was always my favourite thing to do because the idea is already laid out for you. And then it's like a challenge to what can you do to add to their castle?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? So it was never like a competition sort of thing, but almost like a homage.
Yeah.
It's like, I love what you've done. What can I do to help you? Do you know what I mean? It's a silly way to think, but it's my way. So, you know.
Yeah, and speaking of which, just before you played me one of your exclusive tracks that you're working on, remix. Do you want to share what that is, maybe, or you want to keep it secret?
I'll keep it a secret. All I'll say is it's something that when I first heard it, I was like, meh. And then the second or third time I heard it on the radio, it's a current track. I think it's super high up in the thing as well. Now I can't stop fucking whistling the bastard. So it was actually my girlfriend who was like, yo, you need to get on this sort of thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I need to start listening to her. She's very, very smart.
Yeah.
She's also the sweetest thing that God ever shoved her guts into as well. She's such a lovely girl. Anyway, and the last one she told me to do has amassed over 130,000 listens on SoundCloud in like fucking 3 months or something. So
wow.
I'm listening to her again.
Yeah, you're making moves, mate. You are making moves. I've been looking at your SoundCloud before and even Spotify, because sometimes I have a little search on Spotify for friends' names and artists and stuff, and I'm like, bloody hell, the amount of tunes you've got on there.
I've been producing for a long, long time. And see, this is the thing as well. I have dips in it as well. So I'm a father of 3 boys, as you know.
Yeah.
And every time one of those is born, I don't give a fuck about music. All I want to do is play with my new toy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as you know, my children are everything to me. So I pour a lot into them when they're first born, when they're first babies. It's like I don't give a fuck about music and
step out the scene for a bit and
completely
focus on them.
But I'm kind of like that. I'll just disappear. But thankfully, and down to hard work, I've put enough. I've put enough work in at the beginning of my career and tried to stay consistently getting better. I've tried to improve all the time that I can do that. I made a name, and now it's a very fickle scene. It's very about, what have you done for me lately? So I've always tried to just throw enough out there to say, yo, I'm still here. I'm just busy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and especially with COVID, that was a big one.
Yeah, mate. The whole scene's just a mess, wasn't it? Because of that.
Well, international performances disappeared completely. Like I say,
and then we won't get into it too much, but you had certain, let's say, elite members within the powers that be that were telling people to just go and retrain, just go and be a plumber or a builder, or you've done music all your life, performing, it's all you know. And now they're telling you to go and be a plumber or a decorator.
I now work in a school, as you know.
Yeah.
Work in a special education needs school.
What's that like?
Get the shit kicked out of me most days.
Really?
It's very, very hard. In fact, I'll straight up say it's the hardest job I've ever had in my entire life. I used to think I was a bit of a tough guy. Yeah, I'm not a tough guy. The people who've done that job for 13 years, who go in every single day and deal with the challenges that job presents to you, and still have the mannerisms and way of looking at life that they do, they're the tough ones. And they don't look like what you think they do. They're not covered in tattoos and muscles and bald heads. No. They wear Vans and glasses, you know what I mean? And they're salt of the earth people. So what I've learned from working there is that for something so challenging and so beautiful, the fact that you're basically in charge of someone's most precious thing on the planet. It's a privilege because you're like, yo, this is my very, very delicate situation, but I also love it more than anything. Yeah. Please, will you look after it? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, and also it bites. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like it's very hard. It's super challenging,
draining,
mentally, physically, emotionally, because it's it's super, super tough. But it's also the love that you get in that situation is unbelievable,
rewarding,
and meeting some of the nicest.
Not many people would do that, honestly. So fair play to you, man, because it just shows you strong character. I know you say you struggle with it sometimes, but fair play to you, because most people wouldn't even have it in them, to be honest.
I was always raised with love. It's my favourite feeling. I like loving. Do you know what I mean? So, it's like and I'm empath by nature as well. It's like if someone's feeling bad and painful in front of me, I'm usually going to feel that too, and I'm going to not want to feel that way. And I grown up, with not an easy life. I put myself in some situations where I've had to reassess the way I think about things, and I don't think I'm, like everyone else. Everyone's neurological chemistry is different. The way you process information, the way you react to information, all those sort of things. I started to become an introvert in my thoughts about myself early. So I started to figure those things out. Why do I react the way I react to things? So understanding myself, who was very challenged, very challenging behaviour-wise, I was able to take that through adulthood and take myself off that path into something positive.
Wow.
And then, so I can recognise that in children who might need a different way of teaching or, getting through to sort of thing.
Because you've been there.
Because I've been that kid. Yeah. I mean, obviously there's varying levels of, either learning difficulties or behaviour difficulties. I was fortunate enough where learning, I've been all right. Behaviour, I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? So some of the children that I work with, I say children, one of them's bloody 19, but you know what I mean? It's they don't have the learning ability capacity to help them with the behaviour capacity. So it's just, what it is. You just got to be a good human in that job. You got to be tough physically and have a fucking melted heart, Fortunately, that's me,
Yeah. So where does the music fit in if you're working here? Well, by trying to balance it out, because I know myself trying to create content and stuff and trying to work and family, it's really
the first
hard.
Time in 20 years that it's not been the mainstay and main focus of my finances either. So
due to COVID and restrictions.
I had to. It wasn't, all the music people weren't able to come to the studio so much. I was able to do Zoom sessions and stuff, online bits, but it's not the same. It works. It does work, but there's something to be said of sitting in the studio with someone face to face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of people just didn't want to do that, you know, because they were worried about the situation. So
yeah,
obviously I needed to find another source of income. I couldn't just rely on music for the first time ever. So I got into it that way. But, you know, I am starting to, now that the COVID restrictions, I think I'm definitely starting to get into it. And all this time I have done music. I've always practiced. I've always consistently tried to get better. And with what you were today, you can yourself. We're there. Do you know what I mean? Definitely getting better.
Yeah.
So as long as that's happening.
You've definitely improved. I mean, forgive me, I don't know the exact year we met, but as neighbours for a brief period.
Got to be 7-8 years ago now.
7-8 years ago.
Something like that.
Yeah, and you were already awesome back then, but you last couple of years stuff, you can just hear the progression. And that's not saying the old stuff was far from bad.
I understand
best in your scene, but
I totally understand what you're saying. It's
people won't understand that, will they?
When we're producing, we spoke about it before off air, it's like you turn corners and you do segments that you're learning in your journey. So like I said, I started with structure, and then it was like melody writing and getting creative with patterns and things like that.
Yeah.
And then the last 10 years of my career has been about mastering and getting the sound quality, because I would hear other people's music next to mine. There's another thing. I've never, ever, ever in 20 years of performing ever played anyone else's track. I've only ever, anything that I've ever played, performed out, I engineered. Excuse me.
That definitely sets you apart, doesn't it, from some of the other artists, well, DJs, let's say.
Well, this is it, because I honestly don't think I can name another one, but that's not being egotistical. It's just a fact,
not
you
at
know.
all. And there is others like that, isn't there?
For sure, there will be.
You are like a bit of a rare breed.
I think so. It's got to be. Yeah,
there's a lot of DJs that just.
But see, this is the thing. I never wanted to be a DJ, so it was more at the beginning when I finally. So, like I said, I started producing. I was getting tracks signed to labels and stuff like that, and then I got picked up by a management company to be their in-house engineer. Shout out to Good Grief. They was instrumental at the early part of my career. Alex Kidd, and the owner of Good Grief, Barry Almond, best friends from school and all that lot. And Alex is a major DJ in my scene, still is, killing it all the time. Shout out to Alex. He was the first person to play one of my tracks out. So a friend of mine, Carly, passed a CD on, and he shouted me one time on a New Year's Eve on the phone. He's like, yo, listen to this. Puts the phone up and I'm like, rah, that's my tune. He's like, I'm at Sunday Central. Alex Kidd's just dropped it. I was like, what the fuck? Wow, no fucking way. So I was buzzing, do you know what I mean? And then from there, Alex was like super supportive, like all the tracks. He's like, yo, so I was just giving him tracks all the time. So obviously he said something to Good Grief and stuff, and they signed me as their in-house engineer. So,
wow. Yeah,
just basically writing music. They, paid me a little bit of money every week. It was cool, man. I loved it.
You've done a lot more music than you probably get credit for then.
Well, this is a long time ago. This is like, we're talking 2002, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, so 20 years ago.
Probably thousands if you could estimate.
Tracks. Well over 1,000. But I had released probably about 200-300 on various labels over the years. Yeah.
Did you ever release any on vinyl back in?
Yeah, for sure. That's how it started. So back then it was all vinyl.
Well, of course, yeah.
So Good Grief, they even set up a label for me, Good Grief Recordings, so that I had an avenue to put out the music. So we did like Severe Punishment, that got play on the Extreme Euphoria CDs.
Oh, right.
Lisa Lashes did the Extreme, the orange one, yeah? So my track is number 1 on CD 1 of that, and it was also used in the TV advertisements. So at the time, I'm laying in bed with my partner at the time, the boys' mums, like my eldest boy's mum.
Yeah.
And we're just watching MTV in bed. Next thing you know, this advert comes on, and fucking Severe Punishment, mate. I was like, what the fuck?
Wow.
Phoning everyone, telling them all that. I was like,
goosebumps. Oh my God.
Unbelievable. Yeah, exactly. But you know what's a funny one? So we'll talk about that. I'll tell you how I knew, in my eyes, my perception of making it. I'll tell you when it was. Yeah. So anyway, I was releasing stuff on the likes of Good Grief Recordings and stuff like that. Then the big labels in my scene at the time, and still now, was Tidy Tracks, which was based in Sheffield, I think, and Rotherham, around that area. Yeah. And Nucleus, which was based in London. So the London sound was a lot more groovy sort of thing than the Northern sound, which was a bit more in your face and bouncy sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like it is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, but I always wanted. So when I first started, I set myself goals. My goals were at the time the biggest label. I chose labels, and I chose which labels and which tracks I wanted that to be on. Smashed my goals. Got every track I wanted on those labels. Back then, I just did. It was just anything I sent got picked up.
Wow.
I was just on a roll. But I always
Feeling untouchable, I bet.
I felt how I always felt. My parents always made me feel like that, so I just did. I didn't even appreciate it, to be completely honest, Martin.
Yeah, and you never had like an ego thing with it, did you? Like, I'm the best, and all that. You were just doing what you loved.
I did, but I've always had that. Do you get what I'm saying?
Right,
not being cocky with it. It was just
knowing your worth. Like,
confidence in myself. I've always had the utmost confidence in myself.
yeah.
It's just bred into me. It's just the way I've always been raised. You know what I mean? So, when it started happening, I was a bit nonchalant about it, to be honest. 19 years old, and then you're getting signed to the biggest labels in your scene, which in your scene means in your world. So in my world, I'm getting signed to the biggest labels in the world. Yeah. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I
was just like, well, yeah, I knew it was going to happen. Yeah. That's how I felt about it. So I didn't appreciate it as much as I do now. But, in fact, I had a lot of fun. But then, obviously, once I was putting a lot of tracks out and stuff like that, and other DJs were playing and stuff, people were asking for me to perform. So my management company at the time, Good Grief, they said, like, you need to start playing out, you'll make a lot more money and stuff like that. I was like, sweet, all right, fine. So my first ever gig, I ended up headlining Good Grief, or co-headlining with M-Zone.
Without DJing first?
Never DJed in life. Didn't own a set of decks.
Wow.
And I'm only going to play my music. So I was like, right, what the fuck am I going to do? So
how did that go?
Someone borrowed me. Someone borrowed me a setup for like a week before the thing and just said, I can't remember, it was such a long time ago. There's some little Denon things, I can't remember. No, yeah, it's a long, long time ago. There was like, you know what it might have been? CDJ. You remember the silver CDJ? It's just like a fucking little thin.
Oh yeah, the old one.
It wasn't, it was a Gemini. It was a Gemini, and the mixer was green and had kill switches that said kill on it, like in like graffiti sort of thing. I don't know what it's called, but... And so I just basically burnt my tracks to CD, burnt them all the same speed, because I knew that. Do you know what I mean? So there was all 140 back in the day, or 150, whatever it was, 150. I only produced in fucking free speed with that dance, 140, 145 and 150. Done. Yeah, because it's easier. Yeah, because now I just calculate on the decks. 3.25 is 5 BPM on. Do you know what I mean? As I'm counting, so that's the way I've always done that.
It gives you more time to play around. Well,
because I'd never wanted to be a DJ. I just knew that I had to perform an hour set with my music and make it seamless. Yeah. So how the fuck am I going to do that?
But I bet that was even a bit tricky at first, wasn't it?
It was and it wasn't.
A bit of riding the pitches and trying to.
No. Because I'm a mimic by nature. So I already knew my tracks inside out. I'd listened to them 10 billion times while making them. So I already knew. Most of my shit's done while I'm washing the pots. That made no mistake. It's not when I'm sat at the computer. Most of the tracks I write are in here way before I'm sat at a computer. I already have an idea. Whereas I might play a beat or something and then I'll walk away and then do something else and I'm just listening to it and I'm just writing shit. Yeah. And the second I get something I like, I go and sit down and then usually I'll... a lot of it happens like that. Some of my best, some of my best counter melodies that I've ever done in my tracks have come from replaying a track that's ready for release, that I'm ready to go on. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I've got, oh shit,
I could do this.
Yeah. And do you know what I mean? And then it becomes one of the, flagships of the track sort of thing, one of the, major standout parts. But yeah, it's a funny one. So, yeah.
Yeah. So just to ask, like, I know there's a lot of young producers out there, a lot of people into it. You see YouTube and stuff. And I know you do a lot of engineering, but there'll be people out there that are like, I wish I could sound like Gaz. I'm never going to do it. Is there any advice you could give them in that journey of progression of music production to?
So one of the things that helps me out with, so I had a lot of influences. Well, back then there was almost targets. So basically I looked at the scene that I was trying to do and what I was trying to break into, and I chose targets. Okay. I like you, I like you, I like you, and I like you. But I don't like this, 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 and this. So I took what I liked from that, and that, and then used my sauce with their ingredients.
Oh, okay.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I kind of did that. But in order to do that, learn what they had done and to be able to mimic it good enough, I used to recreate people's music. So I would literally, beat by beat, sound by sound, try and literally recreate what they had done first.
Wow.
So by doing that, you learn a lot about reverse engineering sounds and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You learn how they've done that. And it's like, sometimes you just be fucking walking down the road thinking about it and you go, oh shit, that's how they did that. Do you know what I mean? So it was always like that. So if you're trying to sound, or if you're inspired by someone enough where you want to learn what they've done, just try and recreate their music as best you can, and you will get better at it the longer you do it. So
some people will be disheartened, but I don't want to sound exactly like them. But you have to
You never
learn
will.
the basics.
You never will.
You'll always sound different.
Exactly. You never will until you're good enough to. And by the time you're good enough to, you never want to. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you'll know how not to by then as well. But you just never will anyway, because there's the technical side of producing, and then there's the creative X factor of producing. That's like, you can't teach that to someone. You can teach them the foundations of their genre, the key elements, things that they need to do to stay within that genre and make it whatever it is they're trying to produce. But the X factor is the X factor, and it's not consistent either. I might write 10 tracks and I might only like 2 of them, but someone else might like all 10, or maybe even just fucking 1. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's very subjective. So sometimes you might create what you think's a masterpiece and other people think shit. So
yeah, I've seen that from a lot of artists over the years. Like, heard a thing about Michael Jackson saying that about 4 or 5 out of 100 tracks only ever made it, out there. And then a group called Bicep doing a lot of old school sounding, sort of new schooly type house stuff. Quite euphoric. The track that I remixed, they did, called Glue. Pretty cool track. The original, just like took me back to all the early days of rave and stuff. The video was really cool. But they put up a thing on Facebook last week, and it was literally a list of tracks, and they're like, only 3 made it out of all these tracks. Well, I bet most of them are decent, but you get a bit picky, I suppose, don't you?
It's a weird one, because I had so much success early in my career. I got hit with a slice of reality not too long ago. I did 8 tracks with someone, and we sent them all out to a label, and all of them got refused. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I had to sit back and just have a word with myself. This is what it is. You've been lucky, and you need to remember that. You know what I mean? I did get disheartened for 20 minutes, and then you remember that's just how it is. Do better. Do better. You don't have to quit. Just do better. And those songs there, maybe they're not ready. Maybe it's not the time for that. Timing's everything as well, depending on what the flavour of the track
might not
is.
Just clicked with them at that time. Doesn't mean it's not any good, does
different labels. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't mean it's not good. It just means it's not suitable for wherever you sent it, or for that guy's day that day. He might have woke up and been in a shitty mood. He fancied something really aggressive, and you've sent him some fucking funky bullshit that he's not feeling today. Yeah. Sometimes it's like that. You know what I mean? So you just got to know. The only way you fail at this shit, is if you don't fucking do it. If you quit. That's it.
Okay.
If you quit, then of course you failed. Well done. If you don't ever quit, you can't fail. Yeah. Some people, it happens overnight. Some people, they say overnight success takes about 15 years. You know what I mean? Okay. That's the saying, Because you see like these people who come out and like all of a sudden you're hearing about them. You think, oh, these have just come out. No. These motherfuckers have been learning their craft forever. Yeah. Why do you think they sound so good? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So
it's true that.
Yeah, it's a
lot of people don't see that.
10,000 hours. You got to put 10,000 hours to be excellent at anything. Okay. Yeah. That's what they say, right? Yeah. I've put way more into this game. I should be good by now.
I suppose the moral of the story for younger producers is to just keep doing it and keep producing tracks. Never mind, they don't sound quite like that big guy in the scene. Just keep making them. Listen back to them. Yeah. Listen back over the years. You'll hear your progression, and then you'll be like, I'm getting better, and you'll just strive to keep doing it.
Set yourself achievable goals. Yeah. Small achievable goals at first. Or don't. Have a long game goal and a short game goal. So, for example, your long game might be, I don't know, I want to play Creamfields. You've only just started DJing. Okay, sweet. So do the little shows that you do first. Start producing your own music as you're doing that. Start playing your music in your set. Start reading the crowd. See what goes off, which doesn't, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Keep building your way up, putting mixes out, listening to feedback and stuff. Just continue to do it. Take data. Read the data that you're getting. And then you can see that shit worked. That shit didn't work. Focus on the shit that worked. Just keep doing it. And as long as you keep doing it, even it doesn't matter what your trajectory is like. It doesn't matter if you hit the ceiling straight away. As long as there is a trajectory, you just got to keep going. Yeah. That's the best advice I can give. Just keep at it.
Yeah, and do it for yourself as well. If that's your passion,
enjoy it. You've got to. Yeah. There's a foreseeable difference between when you're doing it for money and when you're doing it because you love it. I can hear myself when I'm engineering for someone else. Excuse me. If it isn't something that I particularly enjoy, I can tell. But I'll always give my best, no matter what, for a client. I always have done, and I always will do, because I'm proud of what I do. I'm by the end of it, I want to be pleased by looking at them and seeing that they're pleased. If they're not happy, I fucked up. Right, so I always try my best anyway. But I can see the difference in between when I'm doing something that I enjoy also and when I'm doing it just for money. Do you know what I'm saying?
They ask you to make something that's just not really into it.
Yeah,
it's
minimal tech, or something like that. I'll do it, and I'm, again,
the vibe's not there.
I'm a mimic, so I can do it pretty good.
Yeah,
but it's not for me, sort of thing. And then when someone wants to do some jump up drum and bass or some real fucking
stuff,
some super heavy hard dance or something, I'm like, whoa, I feel it too.
Yeah, I definitely felt it as well because we were friends, weren't we, before the music stuff? I mean, should have skipped back there, but I didn't know you as a producer or as a DJ. You were just my neighbour that I bumped into, and we got chatting.
Which is insane, really, isn't it, if you think about it? Yeah.
And then it just so happened, I started talking about music, and you're like, oh, I do music, I'm DJ and all that. And I'm like, what? Started Googling, like, no way, bloody hell, man. It's a few doors down, like, wow. Yeah, and then we went back and forth a lot, didn't we, on the production stuff.
For sure. I was impressed by you, really does as well. I was super impressed. But then, obviously, the more I got to know you, and I knew you've been at it for ages and all that as well. Yeah, but you're not someone who believes in himself.
I am starting to. I am really starting to.
Because you're fucking really good, Martin. Really good. So,
thank you. I'm trying. I'm trying. But
really good.
It's
super clean production. Always been super clean.
Maybe too clean, but I'm getting there.
You just got to know when a track's finished. That's your thing.
True, yeah. Always beating myself up, but I had a bit of a realisation sort of around January, not so long ago, I suppose. Listening back to old tracks and tracks that I'd emailed to myself over years and tracks in folders that I found, and I'm like, you know what? They're not actually that bad. I hear way worse stuff on Spotify, it just come up in random selection. And I'm like, I need to get them out there because they're part of my journey. And then all the new stuff, you'll hear the progression. And then, so I will do it eventually.
And you'll probably agree with me here. Like when you first start producing, you've got all this fire and passion for it that you're busting out with creative ideas. It's just fucking flying out of you and all that. But after so long of doing it, that sort of diminishes a little bit. But then your technical prowess improves over that time. Yeah. So there's almost like a fall off of creativity and passion and fire for it, but then this super boost of technical ability and wizardry, do you know what I mean? Where you can get so clean and thingy, but then that side falls off. It's getting the balance right, but that's what I say. The first part of my career was all fucking fire and
just get it out,
passion and super energy and loads of great ideas. Terrible production, fucking horrible. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now, new shit's like super tight and punchy, but it doesn't. Some of it might not have the same love and flavour of the old shit because, I'm fucking 40 years old now. I'm not 19. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Probably a bit deaf as well after all the gigs.
100%. Everything's dull. Everything needs fucking high end on it now. It's like...
Yeah, I'm the same, man. Yeah. So we're getting old. But no, definitely keep doing what you're doing, man. It's... you are really a treasure to the scene in what you do. Yeah, and a lot of people look up to you. I'm still seeing you headlining gigs with your name along with the top people. And major kudos to you for still being in the scene and doing it, and to your parents for all the support they give you.
Mama and Papa
missus and your kids.
That's it. Yeah.
That's all you need, man. That'll keep you going, and that strong foundation.
Keep me on the straight and narrow.
Yeah. Definitely. So would there be any little mad experiences you could share with us from gigs or any little...
Well, I suppose it's
situations.
It's in the past now, isn't it? So.
You ever stop the wrong deck or please shut the clubs down?
I remember it might have even been my second. Yeah, it was. So my first gig, I played at Good Grief, Phillips Park Hall. Probably about 700 people. Wow. Quite a lot, in a small venue as well. It was like, whoa, you know what I mean?
Nerves going.
Second gig, I played, I think it was HQXL in Holland. 7,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was nervy anyway. It's like, what the fuck? And then I exactly that, pressed Q on the wrong deck. So excuse me. Music's going ahead. I'm fucking buzzing. And as you've seen me, I'm very animated when I'm performing as well. I like to get the crowd going and stuff like that. So midway through, I'm, jumping about and all that. And press Q on the wrong deck. The music just goes... stops like that.
Oh, wow.
And I immediately do what I do, look for someone to blame. Yeah. It can't possibly have been me. So I just looked around at Alex was there with me, and I just went, what have you done? He went, fucking, it wasn't me. I was like, oh, no. Anyway, so I just pressed play, and, obviously, fuck all happened. It's just what it is. No one cares.
As soon as the music starts playing again, they soon forget, won't they?
Of course, no one gives a shit. But to me, it was like everything. I fucking died, man. But that's one thing that over the years, you get better at handling as well. The amount of times I've done it now, it's like I'll fucking laugh. I'll rewind it. If there's a bit that I want to listen to on the track and it skips before or something like that, I'll rewind it and play the drop again. Because I want it to do what it's supposed to do. And I'll laugh while I'm doing it. And people expect that from me now, do you know what I mean? Yeah. If a CD skips, I'll take it out, snap it in half and throw it into the crowd, or not snap it in half, eat it, or I'll just do something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you really do get the crowd going. When I come down to watch you in London, when we drove you down there, like I say, I knew you before the music stuff.
Shout out Sinistra, London, boys.
Yeah, I nearly didn't get in, did I? I didn't realise you had to have photo ID to get into a club in London. It's like, oh my God. Yeah. But yeah, like I say, I've heard some of your tracks on like my monitors and your monitors back at each other's houses as being neighbours and stuff. But I didn't realise the actual power to your tracks until I heard you live and seen you perform, and the bass and the kick. And
well, see, for that sort of music, like club music sort of thing, especially like hard, underground dance music sort of thing. That's all you fucking really hear anyway. You hear the kick, especially 4/4, boom, boom. You hear that, and then you need to hear some, high bits to cut through, that sort of thing. So I always focused a lot on getting my kicks and bass as because that's the
foundation of it. Yeah,
correct. So but I appreciate that, mate. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we won't go on too much longer, but do you want to tell people who are not familiar, the other people looking at this who didn't really know who you were, but where they can find your music and where you're going to be playing this summer and stuff?
Yeah, well, next big one, there's the Tidy Weekender. That's like, Pontins. Basically one of the biggest labels in my scene, the Tidy Tracks. They basically rent that motherfucker out for 3 days, put on multiple DJs across multiple arenas, and everyone just stays in the chalets. It's just 3 days of absolute carnage. It's absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. So really looking forward to that one. That's in Pontins in... I don't fucking know, but if you type in Tidy Weekender Pontins,
I'll just look for your pages.
Yeah, so if you go on, if you look Dark by Design Official on Facebook, Dark by Design Official on YouTube, Dark by Design Official on SoundCloud.
All right, okay.
Find me music and all that. Dark by Design on Spotify. Anywhere you find me shit.
Cool. Yeah. Is that like with Is it easy to? Because I know sometimes it matters with the names as well when you're trying to find tracks. Like with my own artist sort of name, Illusive Exposure, if you put it with the space, you hardly find anything. But like, if you put it all as one word, how I put it, you find everything there.
Fortunately, because it's kind of an unusual phrase, Dark by Design. Even if you just type it, even if you type it all as one word, which is what I spell it as, that's the correct way of spelling it. Remember that, promoters, with your fucking spaces. But
guilty of that, sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. But even with the spaces or without the spaces, you're still going to find your stuff. Fine. But I will say this, darkbydesign.com is a fetish gear website. That ain't me.
Really?
It's not me, I promise. But so, I mean, if they want to sponsor me, I will absolutely wear a dildo on stage. No problem.
Oh wow. Well, it's been really good. Appreciate you coming on. First actual guest here on the podcast. I do have a couple more lined up. I think I've got Robbie next week, from a lad from Bolton, MC, just released a book on Amazon, From the Streets to the Stage, and we're going to be getting his story and a few things that are not in the book. Try and give them little nuggets so they have to go and read the book. But he's a funny guy. He's going to do a bit of performing. Nice. He's got a few bars lined up. So nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So definitely appreciate you being the first one. Take some of the nerves off. I mean, done radio and co-hosting for years.
You killed it, mate. You're sweet.
Face to face, it's completely new for me.
I loved it, mate. And thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been good.
Excellent. And don't forget to check out Gaz and his music, Dark by Design. Yeah.
Yep, that's it. Thank you.
Peace. Thanks very much.